Welcome to the Studio Chatter podcast, everybody. I'm Craig Reeves, and today we have a very special guest, a very good friend of mine. He is not only a fabulous musician, but he is also a medical doctor. He is an infectious disease specialist out of California, and his name is Dr. Anthony Shea, but of course, I know him as Ant Shea. How are you?
I'm great, Craig. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be on your podcast. I've been a big fan. I've listened to every single episode and some episodes more than once. So it's an honor to be here.
What's your favorite episode? I'm curious.
So many. So many. I mean, Annie Elise, Igaito.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, all my friends, really. Bad Snacks.
Wow.
They're all on there. So I feel very honored to be here.
You know what's funny is that people ask me all the time which one was my favorite. People say, "Oh, Craig, which episode was your favorite?" And I always give the same answer. I always say the last one.
That's right. The latest
the last
one.
episode the latest one. The latest episode I did is always my favorite.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, it just has like a recent feel to it. Because I don't ever go back and listen to the podcast episodes. I don't think I've done that once.
Oh, you don't?
No, because a lot of the times when I'm editing them, I'm listening to them so often already. So by the time it's out, I've already listened to it like 3 times. So it's kind of one of those things.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. That makes sense. But, you know, the podcast has been great because I know so many people that you've interviewed, and I just wanted to know about them and how they work and what their backstory is. So it's been great.
Well, that is a great lead in because I normally start with this question in the middle of the podcast, but I want to start with this one at the very beginning. I want to know how you got started in music, Ant Shea. How did you go from a little kid playing hide and seek to becoming the great musician we see today? Because I really think that we're also going to be able to hear from you which instrument you play.
Well, this is probably going to take the longest because I've been around the longest, right?
You are the oldest guest that we've had. You are the oldest guest. So.
Yes. Well, I'm from Taiwan originally, and I was one of those kids. My parents made me play violin at the tender age of 4, or is it 5? I don't remember, but it's one of those things, you know, your Asian parent, your mom just wants you to play either the violin or the piano. And so she made me play the violin. And I just couldn't get it as a kid. It was too hard. I couldn't comprehend it, and I hated it, and I quit. And it wasn't until I was a little bit older that I was inspired by some cassette recordings of Tchaikovsky's Violin Concerto that really inspired me to go, wow, I want to learn how to play that someday. And so it made all the difference in the world to when you want to learn something and you're self-motivated to learn it. So I got really good at the violin. And at one point I was like the concertmaster of the Pasadena Youth Symphony Orchestra. We toured Vienna. I was on the radio. It was a fun time. But whenever I played for those orchestra concerts, you look out into the audience and what do you see? It's like grandpas and grandmas, right? It was just not cool, right? And so I've always wanted to be that cool kid that rocked out on the guitar. So for my junior high graduation present, I asked my dad to get me a guitar. Now, he took me to the local store. He walked over to the acoustic guitar section, but I walked over to the electric guitar section. And I said, I want that white guitar on the wall. You know, just this beautiful white Fender Stratocaster. And I bought a cheapo PV practice amp, and I basically taught myself how to play Guns N' Roses, which is what I really wanted to do. It was the late 80s, and that was just like the heyday of these kind of metal bands, you know, like Guns N' Roses, Poison, Skid Row, and all that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I did a little bit of that, and then in college, I became a Christian, and that's when I learned to sing songs on my I got an acoustic guitar later and sing songs on the acoustic guitar and just practice vocals. So essentially, I did that for a long time. I would help out at my church, play for the praise team whenever they needed help. I play for weddings and stuff like that. yeah, and then a couple of years ago, I had I had a job and I was able to afford better gear. So a couple of years ago, I started upgrading my gear and I was able to get my first Gibson Les Paul, and I made my first YouTube video, and it was an unboxing video. And to this day, it has like 330,000 views, which is just crazy to me. But it meant that I spent time, watching stuff on YouTube, like how to get better at guitar and how to, play better and all that. And then Andrew Huang's video showed up. And it's, of course, that 4-producer, 1-sample episode with Bad Snacks. And of course, she like killed that one. It's like so good, her music. And so I became really interested. Every year, my family takes a ski trip in February. So about 2 years ago, this is right before COVID came to the US. I was driving this 10-hour trip to Utah from where I live, and I just listened through her whole Neat Tape 1, and her music just blew me away, and I was just hooked. Like how do people make electronic music, and how does she make violin playing so cool? And well, I mean, she has these breakdown videos. She has one of Shiki no Uda, and I literally followed her steps, and I recreated Shiki no Uda while on vacation. I had very little gear. I had my laptop. I had no mic. I happened to have my electric guitar because I'm that kind of nerd. And I just recreated the whole thing and put it out. And I titled it using Ableton for the first time. So that's kind of how I got into electronic music. And then around May of 2020, our friend Dear Evergreen, she started the Discord for Bad Snacks. And we all hopped on that day. And it was my first time using Discord, and it was just so addictive. I couldn't get anything done at work. But anyway, and that's how it started. I became part of this wonderful, wonderful community of super talented producers, including yourself.
Oh, well, thank you.
And we did beat battles and collabs, and that's kind of where we're at. That's how I got started.
Man, that is an amazing story, dude. That's amazing, because it's funny you mentioned Bad Snacks. My story's not much different from yours, and actually talked with her about how I came to know her. It wasn't through 4-producers, 1-sample. It was actually from me doing a commission project where I was basically assigned to do a instrumental for a cover singer who wanted to cover Twice by Little Dragon. And I just, and she's the one who sent me the Bad Snacks cover of that song. And when I heard it, I was like, wow, I don't know how I'm going to top this. So yeah, that was how I came to know Bad Snacks. And one of the things that you also mentioned was how you grew up basically classically trained. You grew up classically trained, similar to me. I grew up classically trained as well. And how would you say that compares to production of pop music and production of hip hop or R&B or lo-fi music? What would you say? Because you've pretty much done all of it.
Yeah, I think the advantage is that I think I have a good ear for at least harmony and melody. I'm pretty good at that. I can tell when things clash and they don't sound right, But I would say the disadvantage is I don't have good rhythm. I don't have good pocket. I had to learn about pocket from Miss Bad Snacks herself. And so paying attention to groove and pocket and feel, that's something that I didn't really have a background for classical music. So it was good and bad, I would say. But I'm learning, just like all of us, and we just keep trying to get better.
Yeah, I can tell you, because I came from classical music too. Classical piano was the route from which I came. And there are advantages such as, you can play what it is you hear in your head. I mean, that's kind of an advantage of, being able to play piano and be proficient enough at it. You can, for the most part, put down what's in your head, because there are a lot of producers I watch who really can't play keys and they will literally draw everything in. I still do not see how they do that. But I had the advantage of being able to do that. But one thing that I had to learn too was drum programming. Like my drum programming was terrible back when I was, 22, 23 years old. And then I'm seeing these people who are classically trained today and their beats blow away mine when I was in my 20s. It's like, dude, some of these people are better than I was when I was in my 30s. Like I look at somebody like Annie Elise and Jay Herlock. It's like those kids, my God. And then little boy Aaron, who I had.
Yeah, the kids these days, 17, 18-year-old, and they're making incredible music. Seriously.
Yeah, and one of them's living with you. Ain't that right? Oh, we can talk about Matt.
Yeah.
We can talk about Matt. Your son, Matt,
oh my gosh, yeah,
is an amazing producer. So tell us a little bit about him, how he got started in music and in production.
Yeah, I mean, when he was a kid, we gave him piano lessons, and he did okay with that. But honestly, I don't remember how he got into production. But he started on FL Studio about like 2 or 3 years ago, and he was just putting out beats. He was hoping to get picked up by rappers, and he did end up doing a couple collabs of it, but in the meantime, he made like 100 beats. I mean, if you go to his YouTube channel, there's like 100 beats, all different styles. And so I think he just got good. And he's always had music in it. He is actually a dancer. He's trained in hip hop and tap dancing. So I think just hearing music all the time and learning how to move your body in time with the rhythm and the feel of the song. I think that's where he got a lot of that.
I was under the assumption that he got into production because you got into it.
Like,
I was always
it's
under
the
that
other way
assumption.
around. He would play these beats and he like, hey dad, what'd you think about this? And I'm like, oh yeah, this is really cool, but do this or that. But anyway, he makes such incredible music. I would hear all kinds of stuff coming out of his room, and I'm like, how do you do that? I got to learn how to do that. So I'm following him.
Yeah, his producer name is LOLITSMAT. That's his producer name.
And he's Matt. LOLITSMAT. But he also has another project that he does with his friend Noah.
Summer's Over,
and they're bangers.
Yeah, Noah Matthews. That's the guy who he does his project called Summer's Over.
That's right.
Summer's Over.
Right.
I'll put a link to one of their songs that I really like, Daytrip.
Yep.
I'll put a link to it in the description. If y'all are watching it on YouTube, y'all can check that out. But
I like, for example, that song Daytrip. I mean, I would just be like, you want me to play the guitars? He'll program guitars, but I'm like, I think I can play that for you and make it sound more realistic. So I did that for that song. And then other songs, I'd be like, let me play the bass. I just hop on these projects.
Yeah. How many kids do you have?
I have 3. So Matt's the oldest. He's just graduating high school. He's going into engineering. And then I have a 16-year-old son named Jay, and I have a 14-year-old daughter.
Oh, wow. Are they into music too? Are the other 2 kids into music?
Jay's not into music. My daughter Ellie, she likes to sing. She's in theater. She also dances.
Mm-hmm. Is she the youngest?
Yeah, she's the youngest.
Oh, the princess.
Yeah, absolutely. How
old is she?
14.
14.
She's a high school freshman. But that's the hard thing. It's like I have to balance my time with being a father and being a husband. I don't know how you guys do it. I mean, because it takes a lot of time to make good music, and I don't have that time a lot. I feel like I don't have enough time to do what I need to do.
Oh, I don't feel like I have enough time either. I mean, it is rough when you're doing a podcast, when you work a day job and you do music and you're working with an artist. Yeah, it can get a little bit hectic at times. But, I mean, it's about loving what you do as well. I mean, I don't really feel like doing music as work, so it doesn't really feel like work to me. I can't imagine it would feel like work to you. You must be really having fun with this whole thing, right?
Yeah, for the most part, it's fun. But there's always parts where you have to push through when it's not fun. Like, I don't know if you remember one of Snack's tweets, and where it's, start of a song, you're like, woo, like you're all excited, and then like once you get into it, then it's like such drudgery, you're listening to all 100 samples and it's just so terrible. Yeah. But you got to push through, and then once you come out the other side, then it's like then it's a banger. It's like exciting again. So I don't know if that's been your excitement.
They need to invent a device that you can connect to your head that will immediately transfer what's in your brain out to the computer.
Oh, absolutely.
We need to work on that. We need to work on a brain to hard drive converter where it'll just immediately create the music straight from your head, and anything you hear in your head.
Yeah. Because let's be honest. I mean, we're limited by our technical skills, right? Like you play the piano, which is something that I always wish I could do. I'm like trying to make beats, and I'm trying to come up with chords. I can't play them. It'd be so awesome if you could just think about it.
Do you know how much I wish that I played guitar? Like, I have tried guitar so many times. I have guitars in my studio. You might see a guitar right there. I can't play it. It's literally there for other people to play. Like, when they come to the studio, they have a guitar. They don't have to bring one. Like, I have 2 guitars, and I have a bass guitar right here. I have a guitar right there. I have a bass guitar. I have a guitar right there. I can't play any of them. I suck.
That's just trade. Don't you wish that we could just like trade skills?
Yeah. And then I see people who can play multiple instruments. It's crazy. They can play everything. Like, anything they pick up, they can play.
Yeah.
Definitely. It just kills me. I don't see how they do it. Freaking Bad Snacks can play everything. Neon Vines can play everything, right? And it's crazy. Well, I wish I had that ability to do that.
I know. I try. I try to learn. It's hard because, like I said, there's only so much time. So I don't know if you find this, but when I'm working on production, I spend a lot of time on Ableton, so I get really good at doing all that stuff, right? But that means I'm not spending the time to get better at guitar. I'm not playing my violin. I'm not doing anything on the keyboard. And then so I don't get good. But then if I spend the time and start practicing my guitar, then like Ableton goes to crap and I forget how to make music. It's like there's only so much time. So you're right. I'm really envious of those people that could do everything well. I feel like I try to do everything, but it's not done well.
Well, I mean, you've done life pretty well. I will say that. I mean, you were obviously a great student growing up because you became a doctor, right? And then you went from doing that to, marrying a beautiful wife, having 3 great kids. 2 of them are doing music. And then, you're out here doing awesome songs with a bunch of really great producers. You're collabing with a lot of people. I mean, people would look at you and they'd be like, I want to be like him. I want to be like Antshay. I mean, that's kind of like making it. You work 3 days a week as an infectious disease specialist. You are doing music. I mean, you're doing pretty well, dude.
Yeah, I really do feel blessed. I mean, I can take on music as a hobby, like I feel like if I have to make a living from music, it might take some of the joy away from making music. But some people made a joke is like, you're like the guy playing the video game and you finish the main quest and now you're just like working on side quests.
Side quests. Yeah, I mean, that is what you're doing because like you worked full time as a medical doctor, as an infectious disease specialist. What got you to want to go part time with that? Did you just get burnt out or what happened with that?
Yeah, I did. So I graduated med school in 2000. And so
where?
Cornell. In New York City.
Cornell. Oh yeah. Let's just top it all off with an Ivy League education.
Anyway, but yeah, I mean, like, I've wanted to be a doctor for so long, and I gave it my heart and soul for so many years. And the way I am is I try to do everything excellent.
Clearly,
and so I overextended myself. I literally felt like I was on a treadmill. I was like a hamster on a treadmill. I couldn't get off. I had to keep running. And I couldn't. And you're right. I did get burnt out, and I thought about leaving medicine completely. but fortunately,
Was that because of COVID?
Oh no, this is before COVID. So
before COVID.
Yeah,
okay.
I switched to part-time work maybe about 5 or 6 years ago now. Yeah,
Mm.
so it's definitely before COVID. And yeah, but it was just too much. We have to take care of our mental health. And I got to a point where I realized, I'm not doing okay. I can't keep doing this. So I stepped away for a while. And I think working 3 days is great. Actually, I think probably ideally working 4 days would be even better. And just having 3 days off. Because sometimes, I have too much time off and you start getting a little antsy.
Yeah.
I guess you don't know that feeling yet.
Yeah. So you just work like Monday, Wednesday, Friday. That's about
I
it,
usually
or?
work like midweek, like Tuesday, Wednesday,
okay.
Thursday. And then once in a while I have to be on call for the weekend. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
do you work at a private practice or?
I do. Yeah. I work in the hospital. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, but I mean, it uses different parts of my brain. I mean, I love being a doctor. I love learning new stuff. You're always learning. I mean, you never know enough. There's always stuff you don't know. So I'm constantly looking stuff up and teaching myself how to do stuff. So I love that.
You still have to read a lot of medical journals and stuff like that.
Yeah. I mean, I still do. I still do. I don't have time to read anything else, So
man, that's crazy.
Yeah, but I enjoy talking to people. I enjoy getting them better. I enjoy listening to people when they have stuff to share. So it's a big part of me, and I still love it.
Yeah. When COVID hit, that must have been like, wow, I'm going to be really busy with my job. How did COVID change your job?
Oh, we had to wear battle armor. I mean, we literally had to put on like all this gowns and gloves and helmets, and it was crazy. It's crazy to see people that you work with all in battle gear, essentially, in the beginning, because we didn't know what we're dealing. All we knew was a lot of people were getting sick and they're like in the ICU on the ventilator, and it was just really scary. And I kept myself isolated in this little room here for the first 2 weeks, my wife was really sad. It was actually literally a scary time, but it's kind of it's kind of weird to think back now how scary we were in the beginning.
Yeah, because we just didn't know,
Right. But the thing is
it safe to wear a mask on a plane? Because now I'm paranoid. Like the next time I fly, I'm like, am I going to wear a mask or not? Because you don't have to anymore.
Yeah, you don't have to. I mean, I was on a flight recently, and I would say maybe only like 20% of the people wore a mask. So,
were you wearing a mask?
Yes, I was. Yeah, actually, to be honest, when you're flying, the plane is actually pretty safe because they have special HEPA filters that can circulate the air and filter things out. So when that's running, it's relatively safe. But you're so close to people. You there could be somebody like sitting next to you, like coughing.
What if they cough? You know what I mean?
See, that's why I just keep a mask on.
That's crazy, man. Because like when they lifted that, I was like, oh no, I don't know about that. But yeah, so I have a question for you, and I don't know how you're going to answer this, but answer it as honestly as you can.
Okay.
Now, you did say that you were the oldest person that has been on this show. What advice would you give to the younger generation of just producers and even just people that you've met in this community? Like the folks who are 18, 19, 20 years old. Like, what do you think they could learn from someone like you?
I would say definitely, you pursue your dreams, like you have to think about what you really want out of life and really go for it. You have to find some way to overcome your insecurities and your fears and your doubts and just live your life, go for it. That's been the way that I operated, always trying new things, not being afraid to fail. So that's how you grow. That's how you challenge yourself. So I would say that's definitely one thing. The other thing I always say is you got to really pay attention to your relationships, because as music producers, we spend so much time holed up in our room. We don't necessarily take the time to build your friendships or wherever you're dating, your relationships. I think that's really key. So value your relationships. And also just be wise about your finances. Like I think when you're growing up, maybe you're just thinking about getting to that school, or you're trying to get that gig, but you're not paying attention to money. And so you should definitely read a lot of books, listen to a lot of podcasts, watch a lot of videos on how to be smart financially, because you should build that nest egg and start investing money. Make your money work for you, so that you can be able to afford a house, when it's time, or, whatever, have enough money to get all the gear that you need, So that's what I would say.
Yeah. What would you say about people who kind of look at social media as real life? They kind of look at Instagram as real life. They look at Twitter as real life. Like, what would you say to people who just spend too much time on social media and not enough time, as you said, managing your real life relationships, or, your personal relationships with people? Like, what would you say to people like that?
Yeah, I think probably setting some boundaries and some limits, how much time you spend on this. Like, just take Instagram, right? People post their perfect song, their perfect performance, and they're always happy and having a good time. And we all know that's not real, Like, we think, oh, so-and-so is doing so well. It's not real. Like, for example, I've seen, posts by my son, Matt, and he's like having a great time showing off his latest beat, but I know that inside he's been having a hard time, with getting into college or whatever he's going through. Like, none of that shows up. So you can't look at, TikTok and Instagram and go, that's exactly how things are, and how come my life doesn't look like that? So, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of the people who supposedly I look at and they're like, wow, they're living these perfect lives and everything just works out for them. Everything is going so well for them. I interview these people on my show, and we'll talk before the interview, and they're telling me, I've had a terrible day. Today just sucks. And they're just going on and on and on about how awful things are and how they can't get a song to sound right, and just all the problems that I think I'm only having, and clearly nobody else has these issues. No, I mean, that's not the case. Like, people who you would think are just killing it just all the time, it's like, nah, it's just that it's kind of a game. Social media is kind of a game. It really is. And people post things because if they post something negative, then they feel like it's going to bring everybody else down.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like, why are you posting negativity? Be positive. There's a lot of pressure on artists to be positive all the time.
I think there's a lot of pressure on artists, period. Because, like on our Discords, people would share, I'm not doing so well. Like, even myself, I go through those all the time. I think that there's so much pressure that artists put on themselves, and we're always comparing, how things are going with what we see on social media. So I think we all go through that, right? Wouldn't you say that, Craig?
Man, I go through that all the time, and with me in particular, because I'm 38, and so I'm not like a spring chicken myself. But I look at all these young people who are doing so much more than I'm doing now at 38. It's like I oftentimes look at the success they're enjoying, and it's like, wow, they have been producing for 5 years or 3 years or 2 years sometimes, and they're already killing it. And, their music is getting on the playlists, and, their music is getting a lot of listeners, and it's doing really, really well. And they're posting these insane numbers, and you've got these people that are wanting to work with them. And it's like, wow, I must really suck because these people did more in 2 years than I did in 20.
Yeah.
It can be a little bit frustrating at times. It can be a little bit like, Holy crap, man.
Yeah,
Boy, this person must have. Yeah.
I'm sure we all feel that because I know I feel that. You know, I'm sure we all
Mhm.
feel that looking at each other's successes. You know,
Yeah.
and the other thing that I learned, you know, just like being on social media the last few years, is that whatever success you have, it's so fleeting. It's like, yeah, when you post something, yeah, you get a bunch of likes and comments for like 24 hours, and then after that,
Mhm.
it's forgotten. You know, whatever, you know, it
Yeah.
might have taken you like days to make a video, you know, or like hours and hours to put like a cool post on there. But once somebody clicks like, it's done. It's you know, and then you're left with this kind of little bit of a empty hangover feeling, you know, and then it makes you want to keep doing it. So in other words, it's almost like a hamster on a treadmill again. You're like, you feel like you have to get back on there and, you know, grind.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
It's like you look at, because, and plus, not only that, you mentioned like it's fleeting. Not only is it fleeting, but it's cyclic. This business is so cyclic. Like somebody who was super hot like a few years ago is nowhere to be seen anymore. And then people who were nothing 2 years ago are doing just amazing things now, you know? And so it's kind of like, I tell people all the time, you know, count your blessings, because it's like, you know, I look at somebody like Maddie J, right? Maddie J in 2019 put out her first EP, and it really didn't, you know, I mean, at first it kind of wasn't really getting on playlists. It wasn't doing super, super well. But then she came out like with one single from that album, and I Got You, and it did extremely well. And now it's kind of like she's doing a lot of great things. So it's kind of like people who were going nowhere a few years ago are killing it now. And then there are people who were doing really well, you know, doing great like 5 years ago, who you don't really hear from anymore. It's like, man, I heard that person got dropped or something like that. Like this business is pretty cyclical. It's like, you know, if you're good, it's just a matter of you being at the right place at the right time. You know, There's a lot of luck involved in this business too.
Oh, absolutely. I do want to say some good things about it though. You know, social media has actually opened a lot of doors and opportunities.
Oh yeah.
Like, you know, like I never imagined I could collaborate with musicians around the world. Like just in our Discord, our Bass Snacks Discord, I have so many friends. We got Electrolyte Orchestra in like, you know, Tasmania. We got Igaito in Ireland. You know, Alvino's, he's in London somewhere. It's like, you know, like we get to Hedgenog in Syria. Yeah, exactly. It's like,
yeah.
I tell people, it's like, oh, I get to work with musicians all around the world. And that's just crazy, right? It's just crazy. We're making music together. We're hanging out. We're having, you know, having fun.
Yeah. I mean, I've talked about this a number of times on this show with people. You know, the pandemic was horrible. I lost a lot of people I care about to the pandemic. So I don't want to say that the pandemic was good, but the one good thing that did come out of this is that because we were all stuck at home, we all kind of became this online community. You know, that wouldn't have happened prior. I mean, that wasn't happening prior to the pandemic. I mean, before the pandemic, you know, people were kind of just doing their own thing. But then because we couldn't, we all kind of had to come together, you know?
Right. And this is an interesting time now from my perspective. You know, it's like, you know, things are opening up. People are getting back to their lives. What's happening to these online communities? You know, I feel like at least in our Discord, things are better, but other Discords are starting to like dissipate, you know, like fewer participation, you know, and naturally so. But, you know, so that's kind of like the bummer about it. You know, some of these friendships, they start like becoming less and less close, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, you look at a lot of the communities that were really active during the pandemic, and because the people that run those communities are now kind of touring, they're all kind of doing stuff, you know, now that things are opening up. That was an inevitability. I mean, that was gonna happen, you know, and that's the reason why I did the best that I could to establish as much of a relationship with those people as I could. I really did, because I knew that you know, it was only going to be a matter of time before they were not around as much. And that's why I tell people all the time, you know, you want to try to build relationships with people while you can. Because I'll look at somebody like Jay Herlock. I mean, Jay Herlock is going places, right? Like somebody's going to discover Jay Herlock. And, you know, by the time they end up becoming really successful, you're not going to be able to access them. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're not going to be able to. Like somebody like, yeah, I mean, that's just kind of what it is. We used to collab
back in the day.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like you got to kind of, and I'm not saying to like do it just because you want to ride people's coattails. I'm not saying that, but like, you know, it's kind of like this business is built on relationships, and it always has been. Yeah. You know, and I always say, like, you know, you don't want to burn bridges with people because, you know, if you burn a bridge with somebody, that's the person that's going to get signed. That's the person who's going to make it big. And then it's kind of like, not only are you not going to have that contact anymore, but, you know, they might put in a bad word about you to people that you want to work with. Right. So it's that's just kind of the way it is. But yeah, you're right. I mean,
you know, speaking of relationships, I make it a point to try to meet as many people as I can, you know, people that I know online. So you saw some of these. I was able to, you know, I've met Snacks, I've met Dear Evergreen, you know, Magda Helena, you know, Internet Boyfriend, you know, so it's been great. I tried to meet up with people and just kind of make that connection, you know, because like you said, it's all about the relationship.
Yeah. Like Bad Snacks is real huge about that too. Like one of the things that Bad Snacks, it's kind of like her dream is to do this big networking event. Snacks Camp. Yeah.
Come on,
she wants
Snacks
to do this
Camp.
she wants to do this huge networking event where not only do we all get to know each other and meet each other, but she wants to bring, you know, other people like, you know, bigger name producers in the community over to this event. And it's just like this big networking thing where there's panels and presentations and
I never figured out how
like
we were going to do that. You know, it sounded like we would live out somewhere in the boonies, but everybody needs their electricity. We had to plug in. We need Wi-Fi to use all the stuff that we use. I never understood that. But yeah, I totally will volunteer to be the team doc. And I even will set up a little barista stand. I'll make coffee and latte art for all you guys. So we can dream. We can dream. Hey, so there's something that I've always wanted to ask you, Craig. So since you have me on the show, no. I want to talk about production. Okay. So, you know, one of the things that you're really good at is vocal production. All right. You just know how to make people sound great. So I wonder if you could share with the listeners, like, what are some of your tips, your approach, what tricks or plugins, whatever it is? How do you make people sound great on vocals?
Wow. Well, the first thing that you want to consider whenever you're recording vocals is it's kind of like garbage in, garbage out. That is the reality. Okay. Like a lot of people will say, you know, how can I make these vocals sound good? They'll give me a vocal, you know, they'll give me a vocal stem and they're like, what would you do, Craig, to make this sound great? And so I'll listen to it and, you know, it's the singer, God bless them, you know, on a dynamic microphone and, you know, they are recording in an untreated room with noise and everything else. And I'll just go back to them and I'll say, I probably wouldn't be able to make this sound any better than you would make it sound, you know, because the truth is that most of the time when I'm working with vocals, I'm usually recording in a pretty controlled environment. Like if I'm recording myself, I'll turn the air conditioner off just so there won't be any noise. I will also record on a pretty good microphone. The condenser that I use is right here. It's an AKG Perception 420, which is a pretty good microphone. And so I'll have a popper stopper as well. Also, you want to manage the distance from which you're recording. Most people record way too close to the mic. Now, with this mic that I'm on, it's a SM7B, which I do my podcast on. You can record close to this because this mic is designed for like speaking really close to it. But condenser mics, you usually want to be 2 fist lengths. You want to line your fists up against each other, like the bottom of your fist, the bottom of one fist to the top of another fist. That's how far you want to be from the mic.
Is that where you set up the pop filter?
Distance.
Is that the distance where you put your
That's
pop
where you
filter?
set up the pop filter, yeah. Mm-hmm. So what you do is you just you take your fist, you take, the bottom of your fist of your left hand and the bottom of and the top of the fist of your right hand, or vice versa. And that's how far you should be. And that's where you should set up your pop screen. You should always use a pop screen. Mm-hmm. A lot of people don't even use a pop screen. That's crazy. Always use a pop screen. Always record in a treated room. So the room that you record in is just as important, if not more important, than the mic itself. So a lot of the times it really is just a matter of having a good microphone, having an environment that's not noisy, and also having a room that's treated. So you don't want a bunch of reflections in the room and all that kind of stuff, because that doesn't sound very good.
Right. Can you hear it? Are you able to hear it?
Yeah, because when you put compression on vocals, you'll hear it more. It's going to bring out the reflections of the room even more.
Okay. So starting with a great recording, right? So that's really key. But I want to know, once you get that good recording, how do you go about processing it?
So once you get a good recording, now, I think you're wanting to talk about like the plugins and stuff like that.
Sure, yeah,
right?
yeah.
Okay, so as far as the plugins go, the very first thing I'm thinking is, okay, let us apply EQ and compression. That's the basics of what I'm going to do. So usually the first thing I'm going to do is apply EQ, and I'm going to apply compression. So the compressor that I use is the 1176 Blue Stripe plugin. It's, I know
is that the one from Waves, or do you have something like a higher
Waves
quality?
Makes one. It's called the CLA 76, and then Universal Audio has one, which is the 1176 Blue Stripe. That is the one that I use for vocals. And then I will apply EQ, which the EQ that I use is just Q10 from Waves. FabFilter's better, but I just don't want to buy it. But really any EQ will work. What I'm doing most of the time is I am just cutting frequencies, like cutting those low frequencies that I don't need. So I will do a low cut. I'll just cut out all those bass frequencies. I'll also cut out around 100 cycles, like 250 cycles at low mid. That usually doesn't sound very good with vocals. So I'll usually dip that a little bit. I'll usually kind of raise up the highs a little bit. With a good recording, you don't have to usually do too much EQ wise. The compression, I will adjust to taste. I'll usually, with the 1176, I'll usually turn the release all the way up to the slowest setting just to make it more smooth. The attack, I'll usually adjust to taste. And the input is like how hard it's hitting the compressor. I'll usually adjust to taste as well. And I'm managing the EQ while doing all this, because the compression and the EQ can affect each other. I usually put the compression after the EQ. I know some people do it different, but I usually have the compression after the EQ in the chain.
Right. Do you double up on your compression? Like, do you use a second compressor?
Not usually. For lead vocals, no. For lead vocals, I usually don't. So this is a lead vocal that I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. So for a lead vocal, that's what I usually do. And then I'll put a de-esser before everything. So before the EQ and the compression, I'll put a de-esser just to get the harsh S's out. But I usually do it after I've EQ'd and compressed it. because I'm not going to know how much de-esser I need until I do that. So auto tune, I'll put some auto tune on there if I need to. For my vocals, I always need auto tune.
You know, I don't have autotune, but I use Melodyne, and that thing has saved my butt so many times.
Oh, I use Melodyne too. So I'll use Melodyne.
Like to me, it sounds more
auto-tune.
natural, but I guess it depends on the sound that you're going for.
Well, what I'll do is I'll usually have auto tune set on like halfway, and then Melodyne I'll usually set. I'll usually go into Melodyne and do both. So I use both. Yeah, I'm
cool.
using both because Melodyne, I don't have to do as much Melodyne if I have auto tune on, and I don't have to have auto tune up as high or working as hard if I'm using Melodyne. So I kind of use both halfway, right?
Right.
They just kind of work better together, I think, because you don't have to, you don't have to stress auto tune as much if you're using Melodyne. You don't have to stress Melodyne too much if you're using auto tune. So I'm doing that. And then, let's see, as far as reverb, I usually have a very simple reverb. Like I'll have all of my vocals bussed to one bus, and I'll just put a reverb on that. And then if I need extra reverb, I'll have some sort of send that I can use for delay or whatever. So that's typically what I do.
For the reverb, do you have some method of ducking the verb when they're singing? No, you just leave it. I don't usually
duck reverb.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't usually duck reverb. As far as the reverb I use, Waves R-verb is the one that I typically use. And then H delay for the delay, Valhalla, Shimmer I'll use for various effects. Endless Smile I use a lot for like vocal risers and stuff like that. So then for group vocals, I pretty much do the same thing as lead vocals, but I'll usually put another compressor on there, an LA2A compressor, just to kind of add a little bit more tightness. So that's typically what I do as far as like vocal processing. I have been meaning to do a YouTube series on how I do vocals.
Oh yeah, that would be great. I would watch that. And I know a lot of people would too. I've been meaning
to do that for a while.
I see. Do you have any plugins that are some of your favorites that you use all the time? Not necessarily just vocals, but just in your production. What are your favorite plugins?
Definitely Q10. Waves Q10 I use quite a bit. As far as EQing other things, I will use CLA3A for drums a lot of times, like for acoustic drums. Believe it or not, I don't do a ton of crazy EQ and compression on like instruments and things unless they are played in like an electric bass or like drums or an acoustic guitar. Typically the compressor that I use is the Fairchild for guitars, like acoustic guitars. And then Q10 is pretty much the EQ that I use. It's pretty much the only EQ that I use. And then reverb, R-verb is what I typically use. Sometimes I use Valhalla as well.
Yeah, so you tend to use a lot of Waves plugins.
I use a lot of Waves plugins, yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, a lot of Waves plugins. Because when I first started producing, they were the only plugins that were any good.
Oh, is that right?
It's like nowadays you have all these really good plugins out there, and I didn't learn on that stuff. So all I had was, and then for bus compression, I use the SSL G compressor, which is, there's an imitation of that in Ableton, the glue compressor. So if y'all don't have the SSLG channel, that is kind of the imitation of it in Ableton.
Yeah, I like the glue compressor. I like that. Yeah. I mean, for my compression, I tend to use things that are more automated because, I'm not as skilled as you, and I don't have as much experience. So I rely on the software. There is this one that's called Ultravox by Leapwing. It's like a smart compressor, and they designed it for vocals, and I think it does a great job. It just makes things sound good. It has like a saturate and also like an air function built in. So I find that when I slap that on vocals, it works pretty good. It makes it sound pretty good.
Ultravox.
Yeah, Ultravox by Leapwing. I got it during Black Friday. So I like that.
I never heard of that one.
Yeah. Well, you don't need to because you're good at using the tools that you use, you know? And whereas somebody like myself...
well, the thing is, I think it's better to use tools that you have used for a long time than always going to the new thing, always going to the latest, greatest thing. I'm pretty sure there's a lot of plugins out there that are better than Q10. FabFilter's one of them, right? FabFilter's better than Q10, but I know Q10.
Yeah.
I know the way it sounds. I know all its quirks. I know all of its stuff. I know what it's going to do. Like every plugin's going to sound different. Every piece of gear is going to sound different. And so it's a lot better to just use something that you know, like R-Verb, like Waves R-Verb. Valhalla's better than R-Verb. It is, right? There's a lot of stuff that I use. And a lot of the new producers said it. They're like, oh, I hate Waves. Waves sucks. There's better stuff out there. Yeah, there's better stuff, but I know Waves.
Yeah.
I'd rather deal with the devil I know than the devil I don't, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's better to know the tools that you have really well. Unfortunately, I'm of the other camp because I have too many plugins and I don't know any of them well. So I'm looking for something fast and, you know, something kind of brainless.
Yeah. You've been releasing your own music lately. That must have been like really intimidating, right? Because like you had said before, like you were just kind of doing the fan thing and listening to music from other people, but then you started releasing your own stuff. Like I heard one record you did, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. You actually produced that with your son, right?
Yeah, and that's from the first beat battle we ever had. Yeah, that actually was the best that I ever done as far as results. I came in second, so I think Brain 10 beat me out.
Yeah, getting beat by Brain 10. I done gotten beat by Brain 10 in so many beat battles.
Yeah, Brain 10.
It's like a tradition getting whooped by Brain 10.
Yes.
I think I beat him in one beat battle we've ever had. It's like every time I'm competing with
the
Brain
one
10,
that you won, right?
me.
The one that you won.
No, it was a beat battle that it was the beat battle that it was the Christmas beat battle that we did where it was like the Secret Santa one. I had like Bad Snacks was my Secret Santa.
Oh,
and then,
yeah.
Yeah, that was the only one I beat him in. Like every other beat battle we have ever had, he's destroyed me. Absolutely destroyed me.
10.
He's like, I did this beat in one day. That's what he said.
Well,
right?
I mean, like he's a real pro. I mean, this is what he does. You know, I talked to him, and when I went to New York, I hung out with him, and he's actually feeling bad that he's doing beat battles. So maybe he stopped doing it because he feels like he's like beating up on like 17-year-olds. Yeah. No, but anyway, yeah, music. I started I released a whole bunch of beats on SoundCloud because it was free, and you know, this is how we did it. And so I had a ton of stuff on there, and I never thought that I had stuff that was good enough to put on Spotify. And but it was a journey, you know, to kind of come around and to really accept the fact that I'm an artist and to feel confident about the stuff that I made. So like, I think was it February? Yeah, February? January. This past January, I was part of Snack's beat class. It was like a beta class. And so I came up with that track, Doom Scrolling. And that was the one that I felt, yes, this one is good enough to go on Spotify. And so I overcame all my fears, and I'm just going to do it. Put it on
That
there.
one's so good. I love that track.
Yeah, thanks.
It's so good.
So I mean, like once you uploaded a track and you see it out there, and you're like, okay, I guess I could put some other ones on there.
Yeah.
So you know,
have.
I've now there's like maybe 5 or 6 tracks on there. They're all different styles because I'm still in the exploring different sounds. I'm not locked into a certain genre, so I just try different things. So if you're looking to have a playlist of just one kind of sound, it's not me. You know, I have all different kinds of stuff. And I put all my collabs up there now too. Now that I have a Spotify account, the collabs I did was Technica, Nowhere, Baby B, Bro Sandy, all those, they're up there now, which is wonderful, you know? And so
It's amazing.
I could drive along, listen to like, you know, like Dua Lipa, and then I could switch to my own song, you know, next. It's
Yeah.
definitely a trip. It's definitely a trip.
I love that.
Yeah,
Any
speaking of which,
plans
you
got-
need to post more. There's only one track under your name, you know? I mean, it's a great one, you know, with Kevin Chung. I think it was Save You, right? Save You.
Yeah.
That one's great. But
you know what's funny is that a lot of people think I don't release stuff. I do. Like, you know what I need to do? I need to just put out a playlist of everything that VIP Sound Circles put out.
Yeah.
I don't release stuff under my name, but I do release stuff with other artists. Like, there's a lot of stuff out there that's produced by me. So I'm just gonna put out a playlist that's everything that Sound Circle has ever done.
You should do that.
That's what I'm gonna do.
Yeah.
Because you know, think, oh, Craig, why don't you release anything? Dude, I'm releasing stuff all the time. It's just that it's not under my name.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, right?
Yeah, that's
on
the
Spotify, unless you're a featured artist, it doesn't show up. You know, it wouldn't say appears on so and so album. You have to be listed as a featured artist. So if you're just in the credits, it's not going to show up.
Yeah. That's it. Because like Cool Fury, who I've had on the show, I've produced everything for him. Like everything by Cool Fury, I produced. So you know, it's kind of like that. And then there was a girl named Simone who I did music with. So there's a lot of stuff that's out there that I produced, but for some reason, people don't think I've put anything out. And I am putting stuff out. It's just it's not like under my name.
Do it.
You know.
Do it.
But
speaking of artists, like, are there any particular artists that you want to work with? You hope to work with?
Well, artists as far as mainstream or artists in the community?
Whoever.
Okay, well, I'll start with the community. I would say that, obviously Annie Elise would be fun. I think working with her would be fun. Let me think. Probably I'd say I think I could do something cool with Snow Aster, who I had on the show.
He's
Mason.
one of those
I could do something
geniuses.
cool with them. Yeah, I could do something cool with them for sure.
I mean, do you feel like your styles jive? Because some of his stuff is pretty experimental.
I don't know. That's the thing. That's the fun thing about it. I don't know. Obviously, Magda Helena. I'd love to do something with Magda Helena, which, you know, we are. I mean, it's not a secret that me and Magda Helena are working on something.
Oh, awesome. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
Like a house track? Because she's the queen of house.
It's a house music. Yeah, it's a house song.
Nice.
Let me think.
Wait, hold on. Are you producing for her, or are you singing? What are you doing on
together?
Oh, producing together.
We're producing it together. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, there's a guest artist we have on it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Let's see. I think I could do something fun with Dear Evergreen.
Mm-hmm.
I think I could.
Yeah, well, she's changed her artist name. It's Modern Lover.
Modern Lover. Well, she goes as both.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, she goes as both. I think her music's different when she's Modern Lover, and then her music's different.
Well, I mean, Modern Lover, I think it's more of her DJ persona, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I've been wanting to catch one of her shows, but they're always like 2 a.m. and I'm too old for that. I don't want to drive to LA and like hang out till 2 a.m. and then come back home by 4 a.m. You know, it's like, I'm just too old for that. So I'm waiting for her to play like a weekend Saturday thing during the day and go and check it out.
Obviously you would definitely be somebody I'd love to do something with. I mean, Bad Snacks, obviously. Keely Bumford, obviously. You know, definitely people like that.
So a lot of people like in our circles.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, pretty much everybody I've had on the show.
Right.
Like, just look at the list of everybody I've had on the show, then yeah, pretty much.
Nice.
You know, if I'm leaving anybody out, I promise I'm not leaving anybody out on purpose. Like, don't think that I don't want to work with you, because I do, like sync.exe, Neon Vines, Nydia.
Oh yeah, Sync just came out with something that I was part of. It actually, we worked on it like a year ago, but he finally released it. This his new album, new EP called Chromostasis. Yeah,
it is. Ooh,
I contributed a little bit of strings. In fact, for the listeners out there, if you need string parts, hit me up. I'm your man.
I'd love to do something with you. Oh yeah, because
so far I've been just doing them for fun. And because I love doing that for people.
Yeah, Antshay's your man when it comes to strings, for sure. I mean, I fell in love with Prism, and because that was one of the records you did. That was the record you did for sync.exe.
Yeah. It was just like the intro track, you got some strings on there. But I actually have other things with him, but he I don't know. I think he's working with a label. It takes a long time for him to release stuff.
Yeah, because he's real careful. He's one of them people. I interviewed him. He's one of those people who is, really all about perfection. He's a perfectionist,
Right.
But some of the artists that I want to work with, I'm already working with, like Alvinos. I wanted to work with Alvinos for a long time, but I'm working with Alvinos,
Yeah.
Working with Alvinos on 2 records, actually,
Yep.
And, I'd love to work with a Guido. That's somebody else I'd like to work with.
Pretty much everybody on your guest list.
Everybody on my list. Yeah. Imagiro, anybody. Blue Cloud. I mean, just so many different people.
Yeah.
Like just so many people I want to work with. I mean, it's just about finding time,
Yeah.
And then mainstream, just anybody on the top of the charts, pretty much. I mean, SZA, I could do some stuff with. I would imagine her.
How do you? So okay, I'm curious.
Giveon.
How would somebody get that opportunity? Like, how does that happen?
Just having the right management. That's really what it is.
So you need some professional management.
Oh yeah,
to give you the connection.
Yeah, because the thing is, if you have management, because I used to have really good management, and I was able to get invited to these things. That or having like a really good publishing deal. Like some of the stuff that you see people getting, like Dressage getting opportunities to work for big stuff, is because she has a publishing deal with Primary Wave, and she's giving up part of the ownership of her music to Primary Wave for them to get her opportunities, like writers camps and things like that, right? I would imagine, Bad Stacks has a management now, and I would imagine that they probably help to get her various opportunities too. That's how you end up getting those big deals like that.
Yeah,
just having the right management.
You used to be part of a label, if I recall, right? Except that you didn't have such a good experience, and so now you do without one.
I got dropped.
Yeah, so now you do without one, right?
Yep.
Would you go back to management?
I mean, who wouldn't? It has to be but when I got dropped, that didn't have anything to do with my management. It was my management that helped get me signed to that major label. I got dropped over an accusation that was made about me that was defamatory. So we ended up winning a settlement, but it was not until years later that it happened, which I should have got more for. I should have got literally $1 million, because I literally could have made millions of dollars working for a major label. I mean, if I'm working with, Ariana Grande or somebody like that, then, even if a record doesn't do that well, I'm still going to make pretty good money from it just because it's Ariana Grande. Or if I'm working with, Chris Brown, whatever one may say about Chris Brown, it's going to do well. I mean, because that's just what it is, and so when I got dropped over something that I didn't even do, then I should have gotten a settlement. But it didn't have anything to do with my management though. That was completely a different deal. I left my management just because after I got dropped, I literally left music. It ruined my life for like 2 years.
Yeah, I'm sure it took a long time to recover.
It was horrible.
From that.
Yeah. It was awful. It was awful.
Is that why you don't do music full time? I mean, because you have a day job, right? So the stuff that you went through?
No, that's not the reason I quit doing music full time. I quit doing music full time because I got tired of being broke.
Yeah.
2012, I was doing music full time. I was broke all the time and I didn't enjoy it. I was doing a bunch of gigs I didn't want to do. I was playing gigs I didn't want to play because I was playing at a church. And don't get me wrong, I love playing at church. I love doing it because, I am a Christian and I have been since I was 17. But the church that I was playing at, I didn't really vibe with, but they paid me. And so I was doing that. And then I was playing wedding gigs and I was doing mastering services for really terrible local artists. And I was doing mixing services for even worse artists. And then I was doing some production gigs that were awful gigs that
so you were really trying. I mean, you tried all different avenues to make money.
Yeah,
but it was tough,
selling beats on websites, and
it's my son Matt. He laments the fact that he wishes he could do music full time and make a living. I just tell him, look, I'm surrounded by people who are trying, and you definitely can. You have to be creative, and you have to hustle, and you have to find different streams of income. It can be done, but yeah, it's hard. It's really hard. It's so competitive out there.
Yeah,
in our culture, we tend not to value music as far as monetarily. I think unless you're like a really big artist, then they rake it in. But for the typical artist out there, it seems like it's really difficult.
Oh, it is. It is definitely hard. So do you have any future plans on what you plan on doing and who you plan on working with? You got any projects lined up?
Well, I mean, I'm still working on stuff. I mean, we just finished Server versus Server. So
yeah,
I mean, because I don't have to make my living from music, I want to focus on enjoying the music and the creation and working with people. So I continue to do collabs. Like, for example, like Servers versus Server, that's the one. I have stuff with Alvino's coming out too, because I finished it. I'm just waiting for him to master it and for you to finish your track. But yeah, my future goal is just work with more musicians, collab, make music together. I want to get better at producing for sure. I have so much to learn still. I feel like I'm deficient in so many areas. I just want to get better. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I don't need no Grammys. I don't need like I don't need like, I don't know, a lot of followers. I'm happy with the community that I have. So nothing super crazy.
Wow.
I just want to make music, get better at it, and work with people and have a good time.
You're doing that. Antshay, this has been great. Thank you so much for coming on this show.
Thank you so much, Craig. That was fun.